Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Season 5, once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden Salsa. Pete, I was sitting up at Humphreys enjoying, a beer, waiting on some food to come. And all I could think about is, man, what would go great with this Bud Select is a bowl of chips and some nice Two Men in a Garden hot salsa. I just can't think of a better thing to pair anytime I'm having beer, and that is rarely. It is always with some Two Men in a Garden salsa. And you know what? Head over to your local grocery store, or better yet, head over to their website, twomeninagarden.com. Pick up a jar of salsa. Let them know we sent you. Check them out. It's great salsa, great pickles, all kinds of great products. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, I am once again reminded why I do not drink and Billiken. I never do anything really stupid. I'm just a little extra, as the kids say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wake up the next morning and I'm like, all right, you didn't do anything really stupid, but like, come on.
Yeah. Well, there are people out there, Zach. I don't want to, name names. I'm not one of them, who think you might already be a little extra. So, I mean, like, how extra are we talking here? Like, what are you worried about?
That's the thing. Like, I think I'm not worried about anything, because like it's all in like positive. Like the whole game was positive, right?
Yeah, sure.
So nothing was like. I mean, it was just me yelling. It was me carrying on, being loud. But no, nothing bad. I'm just like, you were louder than usual.
Were there any children who may
of course
have
there were
foul language?
Of course there were.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, if you don't want to listen to me yell in 108, you can always watch these games on FanDuel Sports Network, Pete.
That's right, Zach. We got word, and
that was. Did you like that transition? By the way,
it was great. Yeah, and nothing makes a transition smoother than stopping to point out how good the transition was. That's why we get paid the big bucks. Yeah, you're right, though.
Thanks, Two Men in a Garden.
FanDuel Sports Network will air at least 12 men's basketball games and 1 women's game, the Valpo game. There are 7 non-conference games listed and 5 A10 games. It's possible that more could be added later. The previous game against Avila was the first to be televised. Tom Ackerman and Troy Robertson will be handling the call for all of these games. Tamar Shem on the sidelines for the home game. So so far so good, Zach. I think the broadcasts have been very good. Loyola Marymount too was already done. That was one of them. I think they're doing a great job. I like Tom on the call. I think that the production is generally good. The one thing that they don't have, and it's not on the broadcast crew or anything, is the shot clock. A lot of times is not available on the score bar. I don't know if I don't remember if that's a permanent thing or if it was just in the first game, but people were noticing that, I believe.
I watched back the Avila game, and I really liked Tamar Shem on the. Is it Sherm or Shem? I can never distinguish the R and the M.
I think it's just Shem, but let me check.
Yeah, no. I thought she was great.
Yeah.
As a sideline reporter, I really hope at some point we can do well and they can do some sort of pregame.
Yes,
because I think I've thought about doing some sort of pregame webcast or something. Because remember during COVID, when the first few games they were doing the YouTube pregame show.
Sorry, it's Tamar Sher. S-H-E-R.
Yes, that's what I thought.
That's a typo. Sorry. I didn't know all that much about her before. I'm not local.
I was gonna say that's not. I was like, that doesn't look like.
No,
but I didn't want to insult you.
As soon as I said it, I was like, that's wrong. That's wrong. Yeah. All right, you got to call me out. All right.
No, but I would love to see them get a pregame show going, even if it's just 15 minutes. Like I loved when they did it during COVID, and And it was just obvious that they weren't gonna. They did. I mean, there was no point in carrying it on
Right.
after. But yeah, we found out some official news regarding Dylan Warlick, aka Dylan Warwick, aka Dylan Warlock.
All acceptable. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, Zach, he's officially redshirting this season. They announced that on Thursday, the 14th. It's not really a surprise here, given the injuries that he was battling coming into the season and the fact that we still have not seen him dressed to play a game yet. I think, given the fact that he missed the whole lead up to the season, he's a freshman. Whatever it is still kind of lingering. I guess it was his ankles. There's just no reason to rush him back. So he's going to take this season off, take the red shirt, and then be a redshirt freshman next season. I think it's probably the right call.
This is always interesting because, I mean, they knew that he was injured coming in. So you take him as a scholarship player. Obviously, it's just kind of an interesting thing to do, especially in this era. Like, I wonder if we see like players that are injured their senior year, they start to really have to go the JUCO route, or are they going to have scholarships available? You know what I mean? Like, because what's the point of bringing a guy in on a roster and redshirting unless you've already had there's always the idea that you have a connection with the person, recruiting them over so many years.
Sure, but there's also like they like the long-term fit of a guy, right? And maybe he's not going to be available this season or much this season, but they like who he is long term. They want to develop him. Maybe they want to get him into shape. Maybe he's a big guy who needs to add muscle, something like that. So I think there's a lot of reasons that it's okay to kind of sit on him for a year. I think that
I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying like if it was just a random recruit. So like forget that like his trajectory was a project.
Mm-hmm.
What if a guy gets like a 5-star, gets injured, or not even a 5-star, a 4-star, any like a guy gets injured senior year, he's committed to a team, like they're going to take him and then redshirt him and then he could transfer. Like what's in it for the team?
Right.
So I just think it's an interesting path we might end up going down.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I guess the last thing I would say about him specifically is that by the time we got to him, because he was the last guy we got on the roster, that was the wild card spot, right? Like Schertz was even calling that a wild card. He's like, I want this, and he got all of those things, and then he's like, I've got one more scholarship. That's a wild card. It can be anybody. That's going to be more of a long-term player, and that's who they got. Once the coaching change at Wyoming happened. So
sure.
Anyway, yeah, it's.
As long as you don't have any use for the scholarship, otherwise,
right.
Then I think it is what it is. It's beneficial to a player. You get the kudos of helping a guy through an injury and sending him on his way to greener pastures if that indeed happens. So, yeah. Let's talk about this 77-71 win against Loyola Marymount on Saturday the 16th. First of all, Pete, I don't know if you saw any of it, but
no.
The pregame video was very cool. It didn't look like they had, I'd have to remember again, fuzzy. I don't believe they had many of this year's team. Like they didn't have like pictures of that. How in past years, the video would be like picture of somebody dunking and, this and that highlights. But like, it was all just old school highlights going way back 70s, 80s, 90s. It was awesome. So,
okay.
Yeah. It's just very cool.
I guess when you've got a new coach and only 3 returners, there's not a whole lot of, what are you going to show? Swope in an Indiana State uniform or something like that?
That's true.
Or highlights from a scrimmage that the stands weren't full for or something like that. So I like the approach and I'm excited to see it next or couple weeks.
I didn't even consider that was like, in my mind, they didn't even do like a video shoot because, they bring in the lighting and the smoke. Right. They didn't do any of that. They just, and I thought it like, I didn't even think of it as a solution to a problem. I just thought it was a creative choice. And either way, Great job.
Could be both.
Yeah. Probably save some money too.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know the motivation behind it, but it sounds very cool.
They did not do the fire. I know I whine about that. I'm sure people love hearing me talk about the fire. They didn't do it for this game or the Avila game. It could be gone. I don't know. But if I wouldn't mind if they did it for conference only, something like that. Like at least be consistent through conference. That's fine.
Right.
But yeah, no, something to keep an eye on if that's something that makes you a nerd. Midweek injury news was a little concerning this week. I gotta say, I was bringing a buddy to the game, and as the injury stuff was coming out, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, I gotta bring him to this game, really?
Yeah, it was getting a little nerve-wracking there over the course of the week. We knew Robbie Avila was already ruled out for this one, right? And we knew Kobe Johnson was injured, but it was just progressing more slowly than expected. I think a lot of us thought maybe he'd play in the previous game, and he didn't, and like it was kind of like, okay, come on, what's going on here? It was coming along really slowly. But then we find out Kalu Anya and Kellen Thames were sick and not practicing leading up to the game. And so Schertz tells the media he's preparing to have anywhere from 8 to 11 scholarship players available for the game. And you're like, oh God, is this going to be a disaster of a game? Is foul trouble going to be like the deciding factor here? But fortunately, we got word on Saturday morning that Anya, Thames, and Johnson would be available. Maybe not all 100%, but available. And Anya and Thames, Zach, I think looked healthy. Johnson, I don't know if he's all the way back yet. But
I thought he looked real good.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't do a whole lot statistically. He played 18 minutes. He may have been being a little conservative to avoid aggravating his shoulder, but just I think his presence there alone allows Swope to kind of play more of his natural role in the offense.
Yeah,
and that's also true when you bring in Doetzler to back up Johnson. So just his presence alone, even if he's not like piling up the stats, I think made Swope all the more valuable in this game.
Anya and Thames. By the way, Kellen Thames might low key be might be third best on this team. I don't know where he fits in because he's been so damn good, but we have guys with resumes.
Yeah, somebody posted that like the on Discord that the analytics really like him. Like his T rank is like top 15
like 7. I don't know what to do with that. Like we have Robbie Avila as an All-American, borderline All-American. Gibson Jimerson, borderline All-American.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Swope, borderline. Then you have Kellen Thames who is playing basketball that's so efficient.
Yeah.
I mean, if this team could play defense, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he was pretty solid on both ends. I mean, I think he probably had in this game, Zach, what was the play of the game with an offensive rebound with just over 2 minutes left. Slew's hanging on to a 6-point lead at that point. And we miss, and you think, oh my God, if they come down and hit a 3, like this game is far from over. But instead, he gets the offensive rebound, draws the foul, hits both free throws, and now it's a 3-possession game, and they're bringing it down with under 2 minutes left. So, I mean, like it's not just the sort of like offensive production or anything like that. He finishes with 12 and 7, which are good numbers, but like making that big play, I think was huge. And I don't know. I thought he was solid defensively.
Yeah, no, I just meant the team in general because the way this game started out, we had a blazing start on offense.
Yeah.
But the defense, I mean, they were, I don't know if it was just, who did we play?
Loyola Marymount.
Loyola Marymount. Thank you. I don't know if it was Loyola.
You were well served at that game.
Loyola Marymount. They couldn't miss either.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely had some stretches that they were on fire. Anya though, Zach, I don't want to ignore what he did in this game either. 9 points. He wasn't great from the field or the free throw line, but he had 13 rebounds and 5 assists. A lot of people were really talking about his passing in this. and then 6 offensive rebounds out of those 13, including 2 on one possession with under a minute left. So I do think if I had to pick one, Thames had like kind of the biggest rebound, but those 2 kind of iced it, I think. So really, really clutch stuff. Big plays, great passing, great rebounding. Did a lot of things well in this game, just unfortunately not really shooting, finishing.
Kellen Thames had one of the sickest dunks I've ever seen in a Billiken uniform.
On the 45 cut too.
On the 45 cut. Oh my God. That brought the house down.
Yeah.
That would have brought the house down had there been a bigger crowd and this be a bigger game.
Yeah, he really got up for that thing. He threw it down hard. Luckily didn't hang on the rim too long. I think
I got a little nervous.
A lot of guys on our team, for whatever reason, Anya really likes to do it. They really like to sit on the rim after finishing a dunk. I don't know what it is, but it was a great dunk. I love that one.
Isaiah Swope and Gibson Jimerson had games, man. Like Gibson Jimerson, both of them are just so silky smooth.
Yeah, and think about it, Zach. So they both finished with 23 points. And how many times have we said here or people talked about it online or in text chains or Discord or Billikens.com, wherever, like people are like, can you imagine if both of those guys are really clicking in the same game? And I think we kind of saw that here, but it was without Robbie Avila. So now you're like, well, I wasn't even thinking of it without him.
Yeah.
But now with him, it's like, once he's back, if those 2 guys are really, hitting shots, if they're playing their roles well, it's going to be dangerous. So yeah, 23 points each. Swope goes 8 for 19, 3 of 8 from 3, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. He's got 4 assists, 4 turnovers. And then Jimerson, Zach, goes 6 of 12, 6 of 10 from 3, 5 of 6 from the line, 7 rebounds, played the entire 40 minutes. And in the process, he passed both Monroe Douglas and Roland Gray on our all-time scoring chart, and he is now number 3 all-time in SLU history for scoring. And
Roland Gray wasn't even in the house. I didn't see him.
Oh, he wasn't? Was Douglas there?
I didn't see. I saw Tommy Liddell and Lish were in the house.
Yeah, they were there.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to pop over and catch Liddell, which was a bummer.
Yeah. But I mean, great game for both of these guys. Milestone game for Jimerson.
He's shooting 5-17 from 3 right now.
Yeah, and I remember reading Evan Miyakawa's preseason prediction of like the top shooters in the country, and Jimerson was like number 30-ish, somewhere around there as one of the top 3-point shooters. And you got to keep in mind there's 360 teams. There's a lot of players. To be number 30 is great, right? Like that puts him very much in the top handful of shooters in the country, but he only was predicting like a very small, like a 10 basis point improvement over last season in his shooting, and still had him, I think, under 40%. I was like, ooh, I don't know. I think he's going to be over 40% this season. I think he's going to make a bigger jump than people realize. And so far that seems to very much be the case.
I felt like this game did not feel as close as it was. This give me vibes of when I was watching SIUE and just kept going like, nah, it can't happen. Not that I had that thought in the moment, but looking back, I was just totally oblivious to actually how close the game could have gotten.
Yeah, and it's funny because yes, how many times have we talked about this in recent years where we've coughed up big leads, and sometimes we win those games, sometimes we lose those games, but you got a little nervous in this one. It's interesting though, I didn't really have that sinking feeling like, oh, here we go.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And it's funny because our pal Gaines, on Twitter said it seemed more like a team that was tired from practicing shorthanded all week, and not a team that was, fumbling down the stretch and screwing up. It's more like their legs kind of caught up with them, their tired legs, and they're really going to like this, week off before the next game as well. So I tend to agree with him that it just kind of had a different vibe. Like I never really believed Loyola Marymount was going to overcome it. And that's that's a great feeling, and I hope that's not just us being Pollyanna because we've got a new coach.
No, I think I mean this reminded me of a team that looks like they're having fun out there, and of course it's fun to win. But I mean I can't think of a better system offensively to play in than this one. It's just free flowing, it's creative. It allows for you to get open shots. I mean, it's hard to see how a player wouldn't have fun.
Oh, totally, totally. And even though I thought Loyola Marymount did a really good job on us defensively, I think, and this is a team that as big as Santa Clara was, I think Loyola Marymount's every bit as big as they are, 1-5, and we were giving up height at most positions. They really took advantage of that. They were really aggressive, didn't give us much, we're playing a really aggressive man or a zone, no matter what they slipped into. It was, they were still coming right at guys and trying to overwhelm us with their size. And I think for the most part, that was the right approach. So I got to say, a lot of credit to them, but I do agree with you that it's a blast to watch. This offense when it's clicking. I was a little surprised in the first half, and I think it happened in the second half too, to watch Swope take a few mid-range jumpers.
Yeah. Well, and I'm watching that first. I don't remember many games where the Billikens come out and make their first 3 shots.
Yes.
It felt so foreign to me.
Yeah, I feel like we've been a slow starting team forever.
I mean, even in those games where we just blew the doors off teams in 2012, 2013, even those, it felt like the game, everybody was just trying to settle in.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, it was, if you were stuck in line at the concession stand, man, like it was 10-9 by the time you got to your seat.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be a lot more high scoring than it ended.
And then it ended up being 77. Like
I know, relatively low scoring. So I what I think we're going to see, and it's funny because we were up early 18 in the second half. The double digit lead mostly held throughout the second half, but the issue, Zach, is they were just so sloppy late. They only hit a couple field goals after the under 8 media timeout. I think they had 7 turnovers in the last 9 minutes. If I've got that right. So that stretch, that last like kind of 8 to 10 minutes of the game was really not good. It wasn't good offensively, way too many turnovers. And
too many shots blocked. And I think they were all Swopes.
Yeah. No, I mean, Anya had a couple at the basket too.
Yeah.
That I distinctly remember as well. So to give up that lead, and we said it before, it wasn't a full collapse like we've unfortunately seen too much in recent years, but that did. It did remind you like, oh, they've got a lot to work on. They've still got a lot of work to do together. They've still got a lot of practice to get under them. They've still got to get healthy. So there are a lot of things I think that, there's a reason this happens in the last quarter of the game, right? Mm-hmm. Where a short team gets a little bit tired and gets a little bit lazy or sloppy or just mistake prone. So lots to clean up in that regard. But yeah, for a while this looked like it was going to be get out of hand. Honestly, early in the second half.
How did you think SLU did with the press? I mean, it wasn't an overwhelming press. It wasn't 40 minutes of hell, but they did show that look. And I thought the Billiken guards did really well. I mean, maybe I'm influenced by nostalgia, but I love the 2-guard approach to bringing the ball up against the pressure.
Yeah, Swope is good against it, but I think Kobe Johnson is kind of the difference there in terms of, our approach to this press. I thought he's really tough with the ball, and kind of gave us if it were just Swope again, like in the previous game, I think it would have been more of a problem. Swope does, he did have 4 turnovers, which is more than anybody else had. On the team, nobody else had more than 2, and that was McCautry in the first half. So I thought everybody was pretty solid against it overall.
What'd you think of Larry Hughes in this game? I thought he wasn't, that kind of wasn't seen much from me.
Yeah, so Hughes played 16 minutes off the bench. And so did Dotzler, right? They were both 16 minutes, both off the bat. Hughes had 6, Dotzler had 4. They each did run into some foul trouble. As I recall here, it looks like 3 fouls on Dotzler, 4 on Hughes. So that was, I think, one of the problems with Hughes and maybe one of the reasons he didn't play a little bit more. He did get a few rebounds, which I thought was good. 2 for 5 from 3 is fine, 40%. I'll take that from him. He does tend to be kind of a quieter player, overall. And because I think as they've got him called, a shooter, he is a little more limited positionally than some of our other guards. But when you look at the stats overall, he was +8 in those 16 minutes, and that was one of the higher marks on the team. I think Dotzler was either 0 or 1. So in the same amount of time, they did have kind of different outcomes while they were on the floor. So that usually says, his defense was there, things like that. He's not turning it over, stuff like that. So I thought he was solid, but another quiet performance.
I really liked Dotzler in this one too. I thought he was a steady presence. Didn't do too much. Didn't do anything wrong. Just one turnover. Obviously, he fouled a few times, and
Yeah.
2 of 4, didn't make a 3, but has a nice little shot. And I thought it was decent.
Yeah, and a couple really good finishes at the rim, right? Those were the other 2 field goal attempts, were both finishes at the rim. And I think we saw flashes of what he can do and what he can be. And we do need that other ball handler to develop, right? Especially if we're going to run into injury trouble throughout this season. So I know he's still getting up to speed, and then coming off of injury, getting to be 100%. So it'll be a little time, but I do like the potential for his curve over the course of the season.
Amari McCautry played 7 minutes. I don't remember him being in the game. I do remember him being in the game, but I don't have any recollection of him making any plays that impacted the game.
Yeah, unfortunately, I remembered his his misses. He was 0 for 2, and he had 2 turnovers, both of which were kind of like miscommunication, misread kind of things. And you could see in both cases, like Swope or other players kind of being like, come on, like you know what, you're supposed to know what I'm doing there. And so I think freshman mistakes, is really what it came down to with him. And he didn't show up in the second half. All 7 of his minutes were in the first.
I'm going to keep calling Killian Brockhoff a freshman until someone corrects me. Because I just him and Picard, they're the same person in my mind. It doesn't, it's just, it is what it is. No, the only notable thing I have from him was the defensive possession where we lost one of the Loyola Marymount players. There was miscommunication between him and Hughes. Yeah. And Church was not too happy with either one of them there.
Yep, I remember that distinctly. He did have 1-3 as well that just kind of rimmed out. Or wait, no, was that the one that was? No, okay. Was that the one that he missed the rim completely on that shot? I think, yeah.
The all Yngwie Goodmanson.
Yeah, so that was unfortunate as well, but it wasn't the shot that got him pulled. He played 4 minutes. I think that was all in the first half as well.
Man, I got to come up with something for the 0 for 1 and nothing else from 3, and it's an air ball. What's that called? There's a Billiken we can name that after. I know there is.
Yeah, there's got to be.
We talked a little bit about that 18-point lead. You mentioned, again, we talked about Gaines's take on it, that they were just tired. It is funny to talk about that because we've become so used to the excuse that we're shorthanded, we can't run. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand with the foul count substitution. Like, trust your guys to go out hard. Play that you can beat this team tired. I think you want to be in the game at the 10-minute mark. There's no sense in holding off. And potentially not being in a good spot. Then you're down with 9 minutes to go instead of up?
Right. Yeah, for sure. But I do want to give them a lot of credit, for kind of overcoming one disadvantage, and they out rebounded Loyola Marymount 41-40. So tired, a little bit smaller, giving up height. I think they deserve a lot of credit for that here. I didn't expect that at all. And so there were definitely plays in this game where I'm frustrated, giving up an offensive rebound, but to step back and look at the fact that we won the rebounding battle by one. We did give up one more offensive rebound than we got, and we can nitpick individual plays. But I think the overall effort on the glass was there in this game, no matter how tired they were. They didn't give that up over the course of the game. So I think that they deserve a lot of credit for sort of gutting that out, because rebounding did really come into play down the stretch.
I think you can get away with giving up offensive rebounds when it comes to the fans watching the game.
Yeah.
Especially in arena, because in the arena, as it's happening, you hear a groan every time there's an offensive rebound. You can kind of hear it in your head when you're on Twitter and people just keep tweeting about the rebounding. But I think there's something to be said for when you're giving up that rebound and they're scoring, you notice they're scoring every time, or you give up more than one offensive rebound in a possession. And in this one, it did not feel like we were giving things up once we lost that rebound. Well, you didn't feel like they were consistently cashing in on that rebound.
Yeah, their second chance points, 13. So higher than SLU's 9, but 13 on 13 offensive rebounds is not terrible. That's not devastating. You can overcome that for sure.
What do we got next here, Pete? Actually, I know what we got next because I will be there. And that is Friday, November 2nd in Kansas City, Pete.
Yeah, that will be and I think that should be 22nd, by the way. That's my typo. We're not going back.
Made me look like an idiot.
I never know what day it is either, but
Ron Burgundy will read whatever you put on the teleprompter.
I'm going to compliment myself a lot more in the notes moving forward with that knowledge. But on Friday, November 22nd, Zach, you're right. We will be in Kansas City. I won't be there. You will, much to the delight of all of the SLU crowd. That's going to be a fun trip, I know, for everybody. I know a lot of people are going to be out there. That's going to be great. We've got a good alumni base out there. But Wichita State, let's talk about them really quickly here. The Shockers are off to a 3-0 start. They're pretty good. Wins over Western Kentucky on the road. Montana State and Northern Iowa, their old conference foe, at home. They will play Monmouth on Monday, so they do have one more game between now and then. Paul Mills is their head coach. He's in his second year at Wichita State after leaving Oral Roberts, and he went 15-19 last season in his first year at the helm. Justin Hill's their top scorer, averages almost 20 points a game, 5.7 rebounds a game, 5 assists per game. He's only 5'11". He's about Swope size. He's a fifth-year guard. He played 2 seasons at Longwood, 2 seasons at Georgia, and now he's wrapping up at Wichita.
This is going to be like an Isabel versus whatever that dude's name was.
Oh, from Duquesne?
Yeah, where Swope and this dude go battle one against
trading
one.
Heavyweights, trading blows from 25 feet away.
It'll be like that fight on Netflix if it was actually legitimate.
If it was good.
Yeah. I was going to go actually legitimate. I'll say it straight up.
He's a good scorer from everywhere is the issue. He's not a guy who's just a volume 3-point shooter. He's really quick. He averages 2.3 steals too, so he's a good defender as well. Corey Washington is averaging 13 points in just over 19 minutes a game. 6'5" junior transfer from St. Peter's, kind of an undersized forward. Xavier Bell, 6'2", fifth-year guard, scoring 11 a game. Not the most efficient shooter, but he's great from the free throw line, and he has not turned the ball over yet this season. Quincy Ballard, 6'11", fifth-year center. He's averaging 9.7 and 4.7. Good shot blocker, not quite the focal point of the offense. And you can get him into foul trouble, but he could be a challenge for SLU just because he's so big. He's 6'11" and like 255, just big.
That's a big boy.
He really is. Ronnie DeGray, we probably know this name, 6'6", fifth-year wing. He's also scoring 9.7 points a game. He played his freshman year at UMass before transferring to Mizzou for 2 seasons, and now he's in his second at Wichita State. And then Harlan Beverly is a 6'5", sixth-year wing, scoring 9.3 points a game, played 4 seasons at Miami. Now he's in his second at Wichita. He's only shooting 33% from the field, and he's under 30% from three, but he's a really solid defensive player. They also have a 6'9" Croatian player. I'm not even going to try and say his name.
I think it kind of looks like Banyak, which I thought was kind of funny.
It probably means the same thing in whatever different, Eastern European dialect Banyak is. But he kind of had a bit of a breakout game against Northern Iowa, their last game. If that wasn't a fluke, they may try to go bigger against SLU at times. So just a kind of a thing to keep an eye on. Overall, if you were kind of paying attention, all but one of the top 6 players are 5th or 6th year players, except one who's a junior. So they have a ton of experience. They don't have nearly the size of Santa Clara or Loyola Marymount, and they only shoot about 18 3-pointers a game. They're really trying to get to the rim. They're really trying to get to the rim. They're trying to draw a lot of fouls. Despite their size, they're a good rebounding and shot blocking team. They don't turn it over a lot. So they've got a lot of guys with kind of a forward mentality, even though a lot of them aren't that big. So an interesting team, interesting matchup for us. Just guys who are just going to try and take it at the rim. So hopefully this is not a game that gets bogged down in fouls or anything like that. I think it's going to be a really good test for SLU.
Should we go through this cluster of a conference?
Why don't we? Because I did a little summary of where we are so far in the conference, and I think it's better than people are acting like.
All right. It is, but like all of them look like fool's gold to me. Nothing. I can't take anything seriously.
It might be.
George Mason 94, Stony Brook 56. Monday the 11th. Tuesday the 12th, St. Joe's beats Villanova 83-76. Pete, I talked about Fool's Gold. We're kind of kicking it off with number 2 here.
Yeah, that's just a that right there is the battle of the top 2 coaches in college basketball, by the way. But
is this the worst Philadelphia basketball has ever been?
Either that or it's all just mid. Right? Yeah. Because like LaSalle and Drexel and Penn aren't bad, and a lot of times they're bad. So the top is weak and the bottom is stronger. And so they all just it's just kind of meh.
It's like the A10. It is a microcosm of the A10.
Yeah, that's true.
You had Fordham 78, Binghamton 63. Who do you remember when we heard an announcer call it Binghamton?
I do not.
Okay. Oh God, it was so great. George Washington 85, North Carolina A&T 80, Rhode Island 105, Franklin Pierce 73. It's hard playing 1 against 5. So when you score 105 points on one person, I think it's a bit of a mismatch. I don't know. It could be me though.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he's been dead since 1869.
You're playing a corpse. LaSalle 93, Cornell 77. Pete, let's talk about Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, so on Wednesday, Louisiana Tech beat UMass by 10, 76-66. St. Bonaventure took care of Florida Gulf Coast at home, 74-65. Charlotte beat Richmond, 65-48. Dayton beat Ball State, 77-69.
Nice.
VCU, 63. Merrimack, 42. Not our Merrimack, but the one that's up in the Northeast. Central Michigan 70, George Mason 69. Zach, that may have been.
It was a nice finish.
The craziest finish I've ever seen.
I mean, it was
not ever.
It was a finish that only a sicko could love.
It was, a botched inbounds play by George Mason that wound up being a game-winning heave by Central Michigan. Brutal. Friday the 15th, Loyola 73, Princeton 68. Manhattan 78, Fordham 76, up and down week for the Rams there. St. Joe's 86, Penn 69.
Nice.
DePaul 84, Duquesne 58.
That one looked better than it was, and then it feels like it got away at the end.
Yeah. Why don't you do Saturday, and then I'm going to give a summary of where we
Saturday the 16th, Bucknell, Richmond. This was not one overtime. I believe this went 2 overtime.
Did it? Oh.
Yeah, 80-76. Richmond, I believe, had at least one chance to win, I think in the first overtime. And couldn't get a bucket. LaSalle 61, LaSalle 71, Drexel 68. Bonaventure beats Lemoyne 71-52. VCU 83, Loyola Maryland 57. Eastern Carolina beats George Mason 78-77 at East Carolina in OT. I watched this one for a minute. Again, George Mason. Somebody said they're glad that we don't have to pretend that George Mason is good, and I agree.
Yeah, no kidding.
Davidson 76, ETSU 70, Dayton 76, Capital 55, Hofstra 75, UMass 71 in OT. Give us a rundown of the A10 results and tell us why, Billick. I've said it before. I will root against whoever the fuck I want in this conference because I feel like it, and I don't care about the good of the conference because I love chaos. But tell the Billiken fans with a more conscious eye on the surroundings.
So VCU, Dayton, Loyola, St. Bonaventure, and LaSalle are off to 4-0 starts. Now, what you see in those will probably just confirm your priors, right? So if you think VCU, Dayton, and Loyola are good, they're good. If you think Bonaventure and LaSalle are bad, it's fool's gold, and it's their easy schedules. Davidson, George Washington, Rhode Island, all 3-0. Most people think they're all bottom half A10 teams, so I guess we'll find out. But again, it's early. Schedules play a role here. Duquesne is the league's only winless team at 0-3, but Richmond is 0-3 against D1 competition at 1-3 overall. UMass is also 1-3. I wouldn't mind seeing them lose as much as possible before they're gone. Good riddance. St. Joe's is 3-1. Fordham is 2-2, and then George Mason, the only team to play 5 games already,
overachievers,
is 2-3. Yeah, so I did see that West Pine Bills tweeted out that the league already has 16 losses, and they were kind of lamenting that fact and saying, it doesn't look very good. But I look at it like 12 of those losses are among 4 teams, right? You've got 4 other teams kind of spreading out the other losses, or 3 other teams, I guess. And everybody else is undefeated. So I don't know. If you're telling me that just means like a handful of teams are bad, a middle group of teams are just off to a slow start or off to a better start than they should be because their schedule's weak, that's fine. And then the top of the league's kind of doing what you expected. I don't know. I look at this and I'm kind of fine with it.
I'm fine with it. I don't care.
You don't care at all, but yeah, Zach, I don't think this is where there's nothing here that concerns me at this point, I guess is what I'm saying. If a couple of teams are worse than we thought, who cares? Nobody thought that Fordham or Duquesne or George Mason were going to be the team that give us like a 4th bid this year or something.
Yeah, I mean, again, the A10, I no longer understand what makes a good conference anymore. Does that I don't get it. I know those teams were great in 11, 12, and 13, but again, I just don't know why things have changed. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like we have the same the same level coaches in the same positions now. Like, it feels like it has to happen. And if it doesn't, maybe it's just not possible. Maybe it's done. Maybe the A10 as a multi-bid league is done.
I really just think it comes down to how scheduling and conference affiliations have evolved. I think that's all of it. The sandbox, the walls around the sandbox of the power conferences has gotten a lot higher. And we are when you're one of the few conferences just outside that, the A10, the Mountain West, those West Coast conference, those kind of schools, the American, have the hardest time scheduling because we're neither quad 4 games that are guaranteed wins, nor are we quad 1 games guaranteed, quality games that you don't fear losing, right? So if we're going to be a lot of quad 2 or 3 teams, then nobody better than us wants to play us, or nobody in the power conferences wants to play us. And that just, it makes it impossible. They've also, since the heyday of the A10, when we were getting 5 or 6 teams into the tournament, these power conferences and a few non-power conferences have gone to 20 game schedules. So that's 2 games a year for everybody that are getting cut. And then they only want to play neutral games and not road games. So you can't get anybody to come to your gym anymore. So there's all of these reasons why you just can't get quality games anymore. It's really, really hard. And so I think that's a big part of it. And so you just see sort of like a consolidation of power among the power conferences. And it sucks. And there's a lot of things that, these schools have not done well, not getting coaching hires right, not being able to sustain success, not having donors who are committed to NIL quite yet. There are things that we could do to kind of get out of our own way and be better. And some have done that. Your Daytons, your VCUs, as much as it pains me to say it, have done a really good job of that. Other schools less so, and have been really inconsistent. So I think there's just a lot in the broader landscape, and I could go on the subject forever, clearly, but
No.
at least the potential is there to get 3 or 4.
You mentioned potential, and when we talk about this next topic, potential is what we're talking about.
Yeah, we really are, Zach, because it's signing week. It started on Wednesday, and it's the early signing period for college sports. And we got our 3 commitments all signed on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I got to say, did you actually look at what they put out for each player?
I watched one of them, but yeah, I mean, I know what it will like. It's a highlight package, and it's legit.
It's really good because like when I do like the recruiting stuff and I'm looking at these, I don't have like just, sometimes guys have better produced highlight videos that are clips of a lot of different stuff, but normally it's just like, here are my highlights from this weekend of AAU ball or from the first half of my high school season or stuff like that. That's like the best version you get. Sometimes it's just like one game, but this was just a 1-minute video for all 3 of our signed players. And it was high school AAU, offense, defense, shots, dunks. Like, it was a good variety for just 1 minute. So you really got a good, clear synopsis of like what a guy looks like as a player. And I loved it. I thought it was great. So to do that, something they've never done before, on top of like the big graphic that says signed and then the link to the article, really nice touch. Really nice touch.
First up was Luke Lachkowski. He made his signing official. Now it's called an athletic scholarship agreement. Is that how I read that on the?
The technical term has changed from national letter of intent to
sure.
Yeah, whatever it's called now. Who cares? It's the same idea.
But he signed on Wednesday, the 13th. He was the first one.
Yeah, so as a reminder, he's a 6'8", 200-pound wing from St. Mark's School in the Dallas area. Played AAU for Texas Impact, and one of his older brothers he played at Penn. The other one's at Army West Point now. His dad played basketball at Wash U, where his mom led their volleyball team to 3 national championships, and she was the D3 National Player of the Year 2 times. Just like an all-time great athlete at Wash U. What Schertz had to say about him is the obvious things that stand out about Luke are his elite shooting ability and plus positional size as a 6'8" guard. But what most stands out to me is his ability to process the game. Luke's instincts on both ends of the floor will allow him to have a high level of defensive versatility. Just as important as how good of a teammate he is, Luke is the kind of young man you want in the program at all costs because he elevates everyone around him. You got to like all that, Zach.
I mean, it sounds like a winner to me. I'm sold.
Yeah. You go with the smart, high character recruits if you can get them, and I don't know, everything. Like, you look at his family, and it's like Wash U, Ivy League, West Point. They're not messing around when it comes to like what they're doing in college, and I think he really is going to be the best out of all of his brothers as well.
With the idea that they put out these announcements in the video, I'm guessing they organized this so that it would happen in 3 successive days, so each person could get their own
Their own day.
spotlight. Yeah.
I wondered that as well. I'd like to think so. I mean, if they were all kind of on board with it, I think it's cool.
Yeah. Cameron Hudson signed on Thursday the 14th. Remind us a little bit about him.
He's the 6'6" wing from East Lansing, Michigan, who played AAU for Grand Rapids Storm. His dad, Andre, was on the 2000 national championship team at Michigan State. Cam was an all-state player as a junior, and East Lansing should be one of the favorites for a title this season. He has a teammate who's also a D1 prospect, not like a 5-star or anything, but the two of them together are a really good combo. So Shirt says of him, Cam is the quintessential prototype of the kind of player we want to recruit here. He's an exceptional competitor and teammate with a multidimensional skill set as well as tremendous defensive versatility. Cam's presence and his game will greatly enhance our team and our culture. Sold in the room. High character kid coming from a guy who's, won at the highest level of college basketball. Wow. And, who knows what he should be looking for in a program.
I mean, at this point, Shirts has to show me that he's not getting good players before I start, questioning. I can't question what he says here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, Zach, like these are not guys who are going to be like the high 4 and 5-star recruits who are going to we think we've got this high off the charts recruiting class coming in, but like he finds guys who fit the culture, who fit the program, who fit his system. Robbie Avila and Isaiah Swope, when he went to Southern Indiana, was a D2 school. Robbie Avila was between Indiana State and Northern Iowa. Jason Kent, Ryan Conwell, all those guys that he brought to Indiana State were not 4 and 5-star players. He's identifying the right guys.
It's about finding the smart basketball players that are good ball players and putting them in a system that complements their skills and gives them ability to be great.
The other thing I will say about recruiting rankings and why I have less and less faith in them as time goes on is so much of what they're trying to identify as potential and ceiling and not like who's a really good basketball player, like right now. So a lot of what you see, even when like I just saw the other day a list of like the past 12 number 1 national rated recruits. And it's really like when you think about like they're like the ones who are in the NBA, some of them are not in the NBA anymore. None of them are like NBA superstars really. Like it's kind of interesting. Like some of them are good players, but really the point is like none of them were like reach the full ceiling of their 5-star potential. And
because nobody knows what a 17-year-old is going to do.
That's exactly right. It's that and like the NBA has really changed. And I think recruiting rankings are still like kind of looking at an outmoded model of like the NBA, just like we're going to take the best athletes we can find or the guys with the best size or whatever we can find. And it's like, no, like what the league is has completely changed as well. So anyway, long-winded way of saying, I think, don't let rankings influence what you think of these guys.
Let's talk about Jax Kerr, who signed on Friday the 15th.
He did. He's a 6'11" forward from Owasso near Tulsa, Oklahoma, Owasso High School, which is in the Tulsa area. Played AAU for Team Trey Young. He led Owasso to their first state title last season. Physically, he looks like Picard and Brokoff. He's long and lean, extremely skilled. Shirt says, Jax is we identified early on as a great fit for us and will meld perfectly into our system on both ends. His ability at 6'11" to protect the paint with his elite shot blocking, and on the other end, open it up with his shooting gravity is invaluable. Jax's potential is enormous, but the most attractive part for us is that he's a young man who embraces the work and is fully committed to reaching his vast ceiling as a player. His highlight video, if you have not looked at it, I recommend all three. For as a disclaimer, his really stands out because of how well he moves at 6'11". And when you think of some of the 6'10" and taller guys we've had over the years, some of who kind of, were stiffs in high school and long-term projects, he doesn't look like that at all. He really, really moves well. High level of skill. Go check him out.
Picard is kind of that guy. I think Brokoff moves fairly well. I think right now, we have probably the best moving front court we've ever had.
Yeah, I think one of the main things keeping them off the floor is just like, going up against like a Porter on Loyola
Yeah.
Marymount. They're just going to get shoved around too much, right?
Oh yeah, I
But
forgot I
but
heckled him about his brother. That was
the
fun.
the offensive skill set. Yeah, Porter though, he could pick and choose which brother he wants to think
That's
about.
true. That's true.
But in terms of also offensive skill set, yeah, it's there. It's just a matter of these guys filling out their frames and being able to defend big men.
Uh, we had a couple visits, including one this past weekend.
We did. The first one, though, I want to talk about was our staff visiting someone that was Trey Edwards, a 6'4" guard from the class of 2028. So he's young, down at Melissa High School in Texas. Corey Tate went to see him. He was at Chaminade until 8th grade and then moved down to the Dallas area, which breaks my heart on a couple levels. But he's a 5-star recruit, Zach, maybe the top player in Texas. Right now, he's ranked number 13 in the nation by Prep Hoops in the class of 28. Those rankings will change a lot over the years, and I already said that you shouldn't get hung up on rankings too much. But the fact of the matter is, he's a really really impressive scoring guard as just a freshman. So we are recruiting him. Going to try and get him back home. We'll see how that develops. We've got a long time left there. But the guy who came to SLU, who you spotted at the game, and then who tweeted about it afterwards, was Jackson Clark, another Jax, Jax. Took an unofficial visit to SLU this weekend. Took in the Loyola Marymount game. He's a 6'10" center from Keokuk, Iowa. Really interesting recruitment because he's either visited or been visited by coaches from SLU, Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern, Iowa, and Miami, Ohio in the past 6 weeks, but he doesn't have any offers yet. When we first visited him the first weekend in October, after looking at some video, my synopsis was basically the coaching staff is out there looking for the next generation of Robbie Avilas. He kind of has that size, that frame, and that ability. So he's definitely going to be intrigued by what SLU has to say to him for sure.
Let's close the loop on a few guys. Jalen Cross, BJ Davis-Ray, and Isaiah Sealy.
Yeah, Jalen Cross is a guy who the staff offered in the late summer, 6'4" guard out of North Carolina and committed to Charlotte a week ago, last Sunday. BJ Davis-Ray, who recently took an official visit to SLU, when we talked about quite a bit, he committed to SMU on Thursday, which is not a surprise either. He was one of those guys who had a really high level recruitment early on, and it kind of stagnated with a lot of those, Big 12 SEC programs. But SMU, ton of money going to the ACC. That's an intriguing long-term program as well. Isaiah Sealy is the other one. Once a top priority for the Bills, his recruitment fizzled out. Late September, early October-ish. SLU was not in his top 4 after that, but he committed to Arkansas, which is the big in-state program, on Saturday. And hard to pass up that NIL, John Calipari, blah, blah, blah. But we weren't in the running at the end anyway.
Let's move over to the women's side of things. We did have signing week for them, and also 3 commitments. A lot to talk about in this episode. I just realized we have so much to talk about. There's a lot of soccer.
We've got soccer, so we'll hit these quick, Zach. Alyssa,
I know. Let's run through them though.
She's 6'6". She's a center from Modern Day High School in Breese, Illinois, across the river. Just led them to a second straight volleyball title and was an all-state player in the process for volleyball, which is not the sport she signed for SLU. She won a basketball championship as a sophomore and had a triple-double in the title game. And will try to make it 2 as a senior. I think they went on a deep run last year, but didn't win a championship. Tillett says she has size, rebounding, and shot blocking ability to go with some versatility offensively. And that size, if she can get on the floor, which is something our 6'5" players haven't really been able to do in long stretches yet. Man, could we use that. The second one is Jakira Brown, a 5'10" guard out of Legacy Early College High School in Greenville, South Carolina. The staff was tipped off about her while she was playing for Upward Stars at an AAU event. Tillett says she has scoring prowess and a point guard mentality with the ability to defend multiple positions. Also said she's a really hard worker. And then Josiah Wallace is the third. 6'1" forward out of Centralia, Illinois, plays AAU in the Brad Beal Elite program. And Tillett called her an elite rebounder and a really selfless teammate. So I think all three of those kind of fit needs for SLU, especially as you kind of project who might be leaving in the next year or two as well.
Let's talk about on the court action. The Billikens split this week, starting with a 78-71 win versus Illinois State on Tuesday the 12th. I don't know if either of us, I think right now, I think we're looking at, women's basketball under Tillett and saying we don't expect much in these first non-conference games, but they're pulling through in these.
Yeah, so when we were coming into this season, we looked at the first 10 games and realized all 10 of them are against top 150 teams in the net rankings from last season, right? So any of these games in the first 10 is basically a quality win for this program, because even after that run last year, Zach, they were 136 in the net. So you're looking at teams that are all kind of in your neighborhood or stronger, and that's important to note. This win, they got down by as much as 12 in the first half, but ended the second quarter really strong. I think you said Tillett's pulling all the strings, was how you phrased it.
Yeah, I mean, she just throws in Mia Bergstrom, who hadn't played, and all of a sudden they're running plays. I think they ran 3 straight plays to get her a shot from beyond the arc, and she buried the first 2, missed the third. But I mean, she was hunting shots.
Right.
It reminded me so much of watching Jimerson kind of run around looking to get open. That was Tillett saying, okay, we need to get some points back before halftime. Get in there and take your shot.
6 points in 1 minute. I joked that if we played her for 40 minutes, we would have won this game comfortably by almost, 200 or so. So I don't know why we're leaving all those points on the table.
Why hasn't she left early for the W?
Amazing. But as with a lot of other runs for SLU in the game, it involved Kennedy Calhoun stealing the ball, converting into a basket at the other end. She had 5 steals to go with 9 points, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, came off the floor and ran into the tunnel with a trainer in the second half, but luckily came back a couple minutes later to close it out. So she had a good, strong, well-rounded game, and sparked a lot of runs in this one.
Peyton Kennedy, again, I mean, we're going to hear that all season long. She led the Billikens with 17 points and was second in rebounds with 7. Tiara Simon is slowly coming along. She had a tough season, I think, last year. This season, she's really stepped up, Pete.
8 rebounds and 7 points, including a 3-pointer, when a Redbird defender gave her a ton of room, and Simon just couldn't find a good pass option. So she kind of thought about it a couple times and then went ahead and took it, and those never go in, but it looked fantastic. She made it. So that was I thought a really impressive kind of FU to the defender there. I thought that was pretty funny. And not that the defender played it wrong, because it's not something she does. Brooklyn Gray, though, Zach, had a big game.
I love Brooklyn Gray. I love watching her play basketball. I think she has a little bit of that McMakin in her.
Yeah.
A little bit of that, kind of circus shot. She'll make something, even though there's no way she's going to make it. She will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's got a very specific physicality. She's a little bit unpredictable. When she puts the ball on the floor, you're kind of like, okay, I don't quite know where you're going with this, but let's see what you do here. So you're right. She is fun to watch.
She had kind of the play of the game in this one.
Yeah, it really clutch. She ended up with the ball on the wing, kind of dribbled around, like I said, without much of a plan for a minute, and almost made a few bad choices before she finally just made her way to the rim, made the layup, drew the foul. So now SLU has a 5-point lead with just over 2 minutes to go, and they managed to hang on from there. That kind of felt really decisive to me.
The Billiken bench outscored Illinois State's bench 20-2. You're not going to win many games with 2 points from the bench.
I looked over at the box score at one point and I was like, why are all their starters so good? Like, everybody's got double digits. And then I realized, they just have no depth. Like there's just nobody off the bench is doing a thing. And yeah, you're right. 2 bench points. You're going to need more than that. The other thing here is that good rebounding effort. The Bills had a 40-32 advantage. I do worry about their consistency in rebounding, but luckily that showed up in this game, and Illinois State wasn't very strong on the glass.
Illinois State was not very strong at the free throw line either, only going 2 of 7, including some misses down the stretch that could have been key.
Very much so. Very much so. And SLU, in the meantime, shot well. 462 from the field is fine. 400 from three, I would take any day, as I would 83% from the free throw line. So if we're shooting like that, rebounding well, you got to like our chances.
What is it with these like Midwest small minor league baseball towns and women's college basketball? Why are they all good?
That's a good question, and I think you're talking about our friends over in
Yeah, I mean, Illinois State's actually decent. Like all these Missouri Valley teams are good.
Yeah.
Is it the Jackie Stiles effect still working its magic? 20 years on.
Yeah, I think there's just something about the fact that there's I don't want to say parity, right? Because women's basketball is so much stronger at the top than it is in the rest, but you get a lot of parity in the next level down among all these kind of mid-major conferences. And you get coaches who tend to hang around longer than men's coaches who really build a distinct style, a distinct program. And there's not as much money in the game, that kind of levels the playing field a little bit more when it doesn't really come down to the haves and have-nots. There's a little bit less transferring. I know some of that is changing, but I think there's a lot of reasons for it. But Southern Indiana, I was impressed with the style they played, Zach, in this 71-59 loss for SLU at Southern Indiana today as we record, Sunday the 17th. This game, SLU led early for a lot of it, and it was tied at 21 in the second quarter before USI went on an 8-0 run to get some separation, and then they ended the quarter with another 6-0 run to take a 42-30 lead into half, and SLU wasn't able to come back from that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 2 ejections in this episode, the first of which, both of them played key roles in games. First of which would be Shun Animale, who had 4 fouls in 10 minutes. That's she plays like me at St. Angela Marisi.
Or me down at Epiphany. I had plenty of third quarter foul outs in my day.
Oh yeah. Hey, we've all been there, Sean. It's all right. It's all right.
Yep. But Zach, we had Brian Conklin on here a week ago telling
us
that coaches people forget that, but he told us that coaches have to trust their players, with 2 fouls
in the
first half.
I'm
Taylor
fine with
trusted her in this half, and she wound up with 4 fouls in 10 minutes.
I'm okay with it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're not getting an at-large bid. Everybody knows that. It's not happening. This is a freshman mistake. This is where you let the freshman make a mistake. This is the safety net of non-conference. Mm-hmm. And you let her make a mistake, and she sits her ass on the bench for, 2 quarters and thinks about what she did and how she's not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that she goes out on a charge of all things.
Of course.
I mean, and in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter, she scores once and then comes down and barrels right into, like, was it a charge? Was it a block? I don't know. It's kind of a 50-50 call. We didn't get a replay on it. And, I was kind of like, oh, don't call a charge there. But immediately I knew, as soon as he said, oh, she's got the ball, they call that whistle. I was like, that's it. She's out. Mm-hmm. So that's a hard way for your day to end. But like you said, I mean, like, she's a freshman. That's a learning moment right there.
Tiara Simon left with an injury early in the fourth quarter. You said she took a hard elbow to the face. I thought it was a head to the head.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what that's what it looked like. Like, it looked like instead of when she was throwing, like, I thought she kicked her head back too. Okay. So, I mean, it could have been an elbow. I thought I saw head to face. Hopefully it wasn't head to face, because that sucks. Yeah, and is a good way to break some bones.
Well, yeah. So the question here is like, are we going to be looking at a mask for her? Like, are we the broken
Okay,
nose?
wait a minute. Hold on. We have familiarity with masks this week.
We we do, we do. Your tweet about a Holy Cross player with a very unique looking mask, by the way.
Yes,
Uh,
wild. Go check that out if you haven't.
yeah.
We
Somehow,
really should have. We really should have put that up on Twitter and read. You know what? After this, stick around. Right after women's basketball, we'll pull it up real quick and we'll read off some of the great replies we got.
yeah.
But let's finish with women's basketball.
Yeah, so hopefully like she's all right. I don't want that to be a concussion. If she got whatever happened to her, I hope she's okay. It was a kind of a scary moment. And by the way, that was not even called a flagrant foul.
No, it wasn't. I don't know. I thought it should have been called a foul of some kind. Like, I think you have to give a flagrant or nothing. Like, it has to be upgraded or it's not a foul.
Yeah, not a common foul.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought it was a violent play, but
Yeah.
again, it's kind of, I thought the announcer was kind of right on it. It's just a unfortunate, actually, he said it about the ankle of that one girl who, like, apparently, I don't know, she tore something. But yeah, I thought it was just kind of unfortunate. I thought they could have called a flagrant of some kind, but can't really argue that they didn't.
So SLU threatened plenty of times throughout the game, Zach, but they just could not string enough stops together to go on a run. So many times they would get to within like 6 or 7, and then they'd miss a shot, give up something at the other end. Just not enough defensive stops to keep them in this game, unfortunately.
They were shooting the lights out at times. They'd come through with a string of like 2 or 3 threes.
Yeah.
And that was like, God damn it.
They play a fast style. They play a press. They're pretty aggressive. They forced 19 turnovers out of SLU. You know, they wanted to speed the game up a little bit, and sometimes that played to their advantage. And SLU just couldn't get back and get set. And then at the other end, SLU's perimeter shooting was terrible. They finished 4 of 22 from 3. That's 18.2%. They were only 33.3% from the field overall. Lost the turnover battle by 6. So when you combine that with a slight edge and rebounding for the Screaming Eagles, that meant that they got 9 more field goal attempts than SLU. And when they shot 43% from 3, that's just the difference in the game. You know, like unless they're shooting a similar percentage to SLU, you're not going to be in that game. So that's really it. You know, the story of this one, unfortunately. And you wonder, had Shun been in the whole game, been available, maybe that's a different story, because we've seen her light it up already.
Yeah. Peyton Kennedy, only Billiken in double digits. I mean, this is going to be a theme all year. Not necessarily that she's the only Billiken in double digits, but she will be a Billiken in double digits.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. 23 points on 7 of 17 shooting, 3 of 9 from 3. So she had 3 of their 4. And then she was 6 of 6 from the free throw line before fouling out, like with about a minute left. By the way, she is perfect from the free throw line this season. 29 of 29. How long can she keep that going?
What's wrong with you?
I have to report the facts, Zach. I mean, what can I say? She's not listening.
Wow.
She's not listening.
All right, you all definitely don't write hate tweets at Peter Hale when she misses her next free throw.
Yeah, that'll be what it is.
Don't do that. Wednesday the 20th, the Billikens head to that school out west.
Yeah, a lot of different names for it. If you
the scandal-plagued University of Missouri at Columbia.
That's one. The Tigers are 3-2 this year. They've got wins over Southern, Western Illinois, and Tulane, and losses at Vermont and at home to Norfolk State, Zach, which would have been hilarious if it was the men's team.
No, it's still hilarious.
It's still funny. That's for whatever reason. They own Mizzou. I don't think Mizzou's supposed to be great this year. They were picked to finish 15th in the SEC preseason poll, but they are shooting over 40% from 3. Some of that is a small sample size, and it will come down to earth as the season goes on. But their top 2 scorers, Grace Slaughter and Abby Shriek, have been shooting the lights out. Oh my God,
those are violent names.
Slaughter, one of them is 8 of 11 from 3, and I think the other one is 19 of 39.
I did.
So
I am not. I am very scared for this game after watching today's game.
yeah,
We did not defend well.
you got to guard that perimeter. And I think if you can kind of neutralize those two, you'll be all right. And then Sunday, the 24th, Zach, they're going to be home against Missouri State, who's not really the Missouri State of Jackie Styles anymore.
No, but they wear red. And you know what red reminds me of, Pete?
What's that, Zach?
2 Men in a Garden salsa.
Yeah, it sure does. I already told you I'm coming in for Thanksgiving week. I'm excited to get out to do a little grocery shopping while I'm there and get some 2 Men in a Garden. But in the meantime, I thought I would read a comment that I really liked from the A-Bomb on Billikens.com. He commented actually about Stu and his new Substack and how good that is. And we talked to Stu a few weeks ago, but he said, "We've complained for years about the amount of coverage. We have this site. Now we have a podcast. We have a dedicated Substack by a professional journalist, part-time SLU enthusiast writing on A10 sites, and various other coverage. So it's incumbent upon us hardcore fans to support those doing good work, providing insight on the team we love. So post, subscribe, buy pickles and salsa, and keep the Billiken momentum going." And I got to say, listen to this guy. Buy pickles and salsa, and when you do, be sure and comment in your order that you heard about us or heard about them from us, I should say. Leave that commentary. We don't have a code or anything with them right now. There's no official way of clicking a button or something like that. But if you just comment, even if you just put in MMP or Midtown Madness Podcast, something like that, just to kind of give them a wink and let them know that this sponsorship is getting through. We really, really appreciate that. So head on over to 2meninagarden.com, and we do stand by their products. Both of us are fans of theirs, and hopefully the other way around too. But yeah, we really appreciate the support from them and all of you, and be sure and let them know that we sent you. 2meninagarden.com.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that, and you stuck the landing like Carrie Strug.
I always do, and then I cry as I walk off.
Yes, with Bella Caroli in tow. R.I.P. in peace. Now
I get carried off by an old Hungarian man, and my ankle tightly wound.
How did we get to a Bella Caroli reference, especially with the news of his passing? Women's soccer, man. We got soccer. The NCAA tournament selection show was Monday the 11th. RPI 21. Did I call it or did I call it, Pete?
You really did, Zach. You called them out by name. SLU drew an 8 seed and a home game against Kansas, the number 27 ranked team in the RPI. So
who says I don't know ball?
Pretty even match. So if the ratings translated directly to seeding, 21 becomes the strongest 6 seed, and an 8 seed implies an overall ranking of 29 to 32. So clearly there's a little bit of a disconnect between the seeding and the RPI. Going backwards, Zach, because you said we seem to be playing the same teams over and over. Here's who we've drawn in the NCAA tournament in the first round.
So you're going to tell me that I'm wrong, essentially.
You're wrong, but it kind of feels right. Indiana, Memphis, and then we were at number 17 Ole Miss. We played number 21 Washington on a neutral site, and we were at Notre Dame and at Kansas before that. And I think even though we haven't been playing the same teams twice, it kind of feels like there's a regional crux to this. They try and keep it regional, and that can kind of overwhelm a seed. And because of that, we've gotten a lot harder draws in the Midwest and in the kind of near South than we otherwise would have if they just opened up the whole thing like they do in men's basketball.
I think they were talking about this in ways on the Southern Indiana broadcast today about how when they moved from Division II, they had a tough time in Division II because of how regional it was.
Yeah.
And how it was tougher for them to get out of a region because it was you had to play teams in your region, and they were overloaded areas. And I mean, I guess we're talking, money saving here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Forget fairness.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's be frugal with these sports that don't, make a ton of money. But yeah, no, it's a good point. It happens. But luckily, Zach, at the NCAA tournament first round game on Friday the 15th at Herman Stadium, SLU came out with a 1-0 win over Kansas.
I gotta confess, I was not built for this shit. It was cold. I did not dress well. It's a long running situation where I cannot dress for the weather.
Mm.
I need to confess. I really beefed up here.
You gotta learn.
I know. I was miserable. Except for the fact that they won 1-0. There was a lot of talk about Kansas entering this game, riding an 8-game winning streak. They went 4 games in 8 days?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Right. 4 matches, 8 days. 8-game winning streak after starting 5-5-4. So a team that was kind of peaking at the right time. And the Billikens snapped that streak, and it came in, I thought convincing fashion in a lot of ways. I mean, I know you look at the last half of that game, Memphis gets some opportunities, but again, I thought the Billikens played the way they wanted to play, and I thought nothing felt like it was getting out of control.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think it would be easy to just kind of say SLU was the better team in the first half, right? Created a lot more opportunities, probably should have scored on 1 or 2 of those other ones and had a multi-goal lead coming into the half. And that KU was probably the better team in the second half. But, I just think overall, like, I felt like SLU was the better team on the whole. And, as hot as Kansas was, you kind of saw some flaws in that team. Let's circle back to SLU's goal first, though, because I really, really like this goal back.
I mean, SLU was, leading up to that goal I want to talk about, because in that first 20 minutes, they attacked number 16 on Kansas no less than 5 times. 3 through the air, and every single time, 16 misplayed the ball, giving the Billikens numbers within, 25 yards.
Yeah. So they had a lot of chances, but it took them 20 minutes to really capitalize on it. And it was right here in the notes, Zach. I mean, this pair, Emily Gaby and Hannah Larson, who connected on this, they needed to break through because both of them had 1v1 opportunities with the goalie on plays that kind of went through number 16.
It felt like they scored on the 4th consecutive repetition of the same exact play, the same exact buildup, just whoever did what was different. It was the exact same, almost the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah. And so on this one, Emily Gaby scores the goal. It's off a perfect give and go with Hannah Larson. Gaby feeds Larson the ball. She drew basically the entire back line over. There was one of them was kind of behind Gaby and wasn't going to catch her. Seemed like she had already kind of given up, but everybody else got drawn over to Larson, and she gives it back to Gaby, who chipped a perfect ball over the charging Kansas goalie. Really nice finish. The goalie played it as well as she could have, I think. I think Gaby just touched it perfectly. And in the process, Zach, she tied her own record that she set last season with her 16th goal of the season. And her career totals, which are also program records, increased to 48 goals, 118 points. And then Larson, that was her 7th assist of the season. I think 4 of those have been on Gaby goals. So, great connection. They both played it perfectly, and really thankfully they did, because had we made it out of that half without a goal, that would have been kind of a disaster.
It really would have. It really felt that the Kansas back line was so unprepared for what they were being attacked with, and it just felt like we were getting way too many great opportunities to not convert. And if we did not convert in that half, we were going to lose that game. And I think if we hadn't, it's clear that's what it was. That's the way it was trending anyway.
So then the second half, Kansas goes more on the attack, and we wind up seeing what you called maybe the greatest goal line clearance you've ever seen. And that was Lindsay Heckel.
The thing about that, we've seen so many goal line clearances where it is just pure instinct, where you just where the player just kind of reaches out and kicks it off the line. This one it popped up in the air and everybody had to find it. Everybody had to find the ball. And it took a minute. And then Heckle has to run around some players to get to the ball and then get behind the ball and head it out. It was, I thought for sure it was going in. I don't know how she saved it. It was absolutely incredible. That's your All-American right there. That's your All-American saving the season.
And we've really gained an appreciation for how good she is out of the air in the conference tournament.
Yes.
When she's scoring game winners on headers off corners, despite being a defender, really effective with out of the air with her head. And then now on the defensive end. So it's really at both ends that she has saved or won games with that forehead. So really brilliant play. Emily Percelli, in the meantime, 3 saves for her 11th shutout of the year. SLU's 14th shutout. She was a part of all of those. Her school records now stand at 82 wins and 51 shutouts. And she tied Abby Miller's record of 108 career games played, a record that she'll certainly break in the next game. There she is again, she has the ability, if we're able to get USC in a close game in this next game, which we'll talk about soon, Zach, I feel like Percelli has that difference making ability here. So she's going to be really key.
Yeah. And by the way, can we just talk about the Kansas goalkeeper being a complete psycho, wearing sleeves rolled up and it was cold out there. It was very cold.
Some people thrive on that. Yeah.
Crazy person. The shots were 10-10. Billikens led on shots on goal 5-4. Gaby had all 5 of the Billikens shots that were not on goal, which is so Emily Gaby. It's not even funny. Sorry, Emily. Please don't hate me.
Volume shooter.
Yes. All other shots, 2 from Heckle and 1 from Sawyer and Larson, were on target. By the way, Sawyer had a really nice play in this one. She didn't show up a lot, but she did. She was able to drop down and help defensively on a player and caused a turnover that I thought was a really heads-up play. The corners were 2-1 KU. Fouls were 15-11. The Billikens' unbeaten streak grows to 11 games, a stretch that includes 13 wins and 4 ties. By the way, the attendance was incredible for this one. 3,136, third all time for a SLU women's game. It was packed.
Yeah, it looks like a good crowd on video too. And I know a lot of times you always complain because on the broadcast, not everybody sits on the far bleachers.
Nobody sits over on the far bleachers.
We get those bleachers that span the whole field on the far side, and a lot of times they're just lightly peppered with fans, and everybody's on the near side that the camera doesn't pick up. So when you have a good crowd on the other bleachers, it's a pretty good crowd overall there.
We talked about before we started about the men's basketball crowd and how it looked on TV. I think they have the same problem because that side of the court that the camera faces, of course, it's the coaches, it's the benches side. That's kind of the normal way to do it. But it's on the opposite side. There's no entrance over there.
Right.
So nobody really, those seats are kind of, there's not, you know what I mean? It's not exactly a popular place to sit in those first 6 or 7 rows.
Right. And it's expensive season tickets. And a lot of people just don't show up to all the games, right? They come to a certain amount of games. They're they're probably in a lot of those people. They get the tickets every year, don't really think about it, and then just they show up when they feel like it. So it's unfortunate that those are the ones you see on camera.
The Billikens will head to LA, sunny LA, to face number 1 seed USC in the second round, who beat the brakes off Sacramento State 5-0 on Sunday. Pete, did you watch any of these goals?
No, I didn't. No, I wasn't able to.
I didn't see anything there that was extraordinary.
I gotta say, Zach. So number one, yeah, we'll play them on Friday the 22nd, and it's like all of a sudden it falls into like a basketball tournament format, right? Like, well, Friday, Sunday are the next two games, and the high seed hosts, right? So, if SLU should upset USC, they'll play the winner of 4 seed Virginia and 5 seed Wisconsin in LA again on Sunday the 24th. The highest seed hosts those next two rounds. So if USC had lost to Sacramento State, the games would have been in Charlottesville, Virginia. So just a heads up for that. But in terms of USC, I was kind of looking at them too and not thinking that this is necessarily the scariest matchup, Zach. Like when you look at what they've done this season, so they're 16-1-3, great record, very similar to what SLU's done, but a lot less tying though. The loss is against a number one team, Stanford, number one at the time, and then they tied New Mexico State on the road to start the season, then Minnesota, and then Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament, ultimately losing in PKs. But what I thought was interesting is they don't really blow teams out. They're a 1 seed, but until the Sacramento State game, they had not scored more than 3 goals all season, and 10 of their 16 wins were just 1-goal games. The only time they had more than a 2-goal win before today was a 3-0 win earlier this season. So they're not like a team that, we've run into teams in the past, like a Rutgers 3 or 4 years ago, whenever that was, and some of the BYU, Penn State teams we've played, they're hanging 5-6 goals on lower teams all the time. And this USC team just really doesn't do that. And so it's kind of one of those things, like where I circle back to the point about Emily Percelli is, this is not this is a team that plays close games. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they've got high class talent all the way across the board, but their leading goal scorer has 8 goals. So half of what our leading goal scorer has. They spread it out more, but they just don't score a ton. Like it's just a really balanced team. And I don't know if that's better or worse, because I feel like we've run into those teams that have like an All-American who we just can't solve for. Yeah. And so I kind of like this matchup. If we've got to play a 1 seed, I kind of would rather play them than the other ones.
Yeah, I think the only thing that remains to be seen is maybe the size aspect of a pack team.
Yeah.
You never know. Are they Big Ten now? They're Big Ten.
They're Big Ten now, but yeah.
Yeah, but you worry about that Power 5 size.
Mm-hmm.
So that concerns me, I guess. I think that, I think that, again, this Billiken team can beat anybody. I think Skip said it on Billikens.com.
I'm looking at their roster, and I don't know. They don't seem too big, to be honest.
I mean, it's not size, man. It's strength. I don't know why these West Coast teams, they're just a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that could be. I just think they look just like they're balanced. Like they've just got a lot of really good players all like everywhere, right? Like they think they're deep, and I think they're balanced, and it's not like one All-American who you've got to worry about. It's just it's just a good team. Yeah,
the game was going to be played at I forget what it's called. It's the MLS stadium. I believe can't remember if it's the LA Galaxy Stadium or it's
in Carson.
Yeah.
I'll have that for you in a second.
It is.
Yeah, it's great radio here. Dignity Health Sports Park.
Dignity is something that we just lost.
Dignity Health Sports Park is that where they play?
Yeah, that is where the game will be held at.
Okay.
I don't know who plays there, but I believe it's an MLS team.
Yeah, it's not the Galaxy, it's the other one, right?
The LAFC. Yeah.
No, it is Galaxy. Galaxy's in this one.
Okay, it's on the campus of Cal State Dominguez Hill. If you remember that from the movie Bring It On, where the shitty boyfriend goes to college.
I've never seen that movie,
what?
But
oh my God, it's a classic. It's classic.
Fair enough. But yeah, they do play in that's it. It's Dignity Health Sports Park. That's it, apparently where they play their home games all the time anyway. So that's where it'll be. So that'll be fun to play in an MLS stadium for the second time this season.
But my point, before I got sidetracked, was that they've played, like you said, this is the second time this season. They're not they're not unfamiliar with the surroundings of an MLS locker room of sitting in the cool chairs that you get to sit in when you're on the bench.
They're not going to walk out of the tunnel and be like, whoa, like overwhelmed or
not,
anything like that.
They're not the Mighty Ducks going to the North Stars game.
They're like, we play in a newer, nicer MLS stadium than this every season now. So,
let's talk about men's soccer, Pete. The postseason awards, well-earned first team and goalkeeper of the year for Jeremy Abinell. It really feels like Billiken soccer is at its best when they have a goalkeeper that they can rely on to pick them up a lot.
Yeah, for sure. He's been great this year.
It allows them to press forward and not, be worried about defending, even though defense has been the hallmark. It allows for a little more room for error on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's right. And he was joined on the first team by Seth Anderson and Max Floriani. Second team, Luis Lara, Joey Mayer. And then the rookie team had Drake Fournier and Gershon Henry. Luis Lara was also on the all-academic team for the A10. So good mix of players there, well represented and well-deserved for all of them as well.
Yeah, they got a 2-1 win at number 1 seed Fraud Mason on Wednesday the 13th. George Mason did not play Dayton, did not play SLU. I believe they played Duquesne and lost. UMass, they won 2-1, and then they played VCU at home.
Yeah. Yeah, they had about as easy as a road as you could have in the A10. They didn't play a very hard non-conference schedule either. So they won a lot of games this year. Credit to them for that. They beat some good teams, not great teams, but their record, I think, was a little bit stronger than the team was.
32nd minute, Billikens opened up the scoring, and this felt like the game. Matthew Roble from Drake Fournier, a great feed from Fournier, and an impressive left-footed finish.
Yeah, Roble really put it in at a tough angle, so I was impressed by that. I had to watch the replay quite a few times to appreciate how well he struck that. And then in the 41st minute, Max Floriani from Luis Lara to give SLU a 2-0 lead at halftime, Zach, and it felt like this was going to be a pretty comfortable one. Yeah,
it got a little hairy. Fraud Mason was given a weak penalty in the SLU box. Obviously, Javi Sanchez converted it. Mason had a goal called off because of an offside a few minutes prior. I'm not going to connect the dots, but you can. The shots were 12-4 Mason. This was kind of a situation where the Billikens sat in the second half, and there was a lot of talk on the board and the Twitter. Well, actually more the board, but about the Billikens sitting in and kind of just playing for the 1-0, 2-0 win, or no, 1-0, 2-0 or 2-1 win.
Yeah.
I kind of would have liked to see a little more active offense. I don't know. They won. What the hell?
Yeah, it's just like I think there's been a thing all season long where they haven't generated a lot of scoring, and then maybe they have a chance to if the other team's going to be pressing a little higher, and they don't take advantage of that, right? It's almost like they just don't have faith in it, but they do have faith in their back line, so they're just going to pack it in.
Yeah. Mason had 6 shots on goal to the Billiken 2. No corners for the Billikens. 4 to George Mason. That is that was an alarming stat. Is an alarming stat. The fouls were 17-11 Billikens. Abinell made 5 saves for them in the second half, and 1 from point blank range off a head that went right at his lower midsection or feet that he made a great save on. 6 yellow cards on the Billikens. As we learned, discipline is now an Achilles heel for this team. 2 on the bench, one each on Leatherman, Roble, Holloway, and Lara. 3 in each half. Mason only had 1 card, probably because they had possession most of that second.
Yeah.
The Billikens finished the A10 tournament in the final with a 3-0 loss at 2 seed Dayton. And number 5 ranked Dayton on Sunday the 17th. Pete, I texted you before the game, either we get the doors blown off or we win. I did not take into account that Carlos Leatherman was going to get a red card in the first half.
No, neither did I. And it was a tough road, first of all, for SLU because they had to play the top 3 seeds in the tournament, right? Which you can only do as a 6 seed in this format. You got to start with the 3 and then play the 1 and then the 2 if everybody wins as they're supposed to. Dayton won the previous meeting, which was just a couple weeks ago, 4-1. SLU entered number 35. I think it may have been 37, 35 before the game, the RPI 37 afterwards, maybe. And then Dayton was number 7 before the game. So you're right. You said either we get the doors blown off or we win, and I agreed with you. But it was not the way we wanted necessarily.
I mean, I thought this could have been. I thought winning in a shootout was absolutely the Billikens' second best chance to win behind winning in regulation.
Yeah, the way they did against UMass last week. So Dayton's first goal came with just about 2 minutes left in the first half when Felix Buabang got the ball in some traffic just outside the box and let it rip. He
Buabanged it home.
Inside of the far post, it went in. I don't know if Abinell thought it may have been going wide. He didn't, he laid out for it, but it felt like he could have had a little bit more of a stretch than that. I just don't think he realized. And this was after, as you said, Carlos Leatherman was sent off with a red card after getting his second yellow on a reckless challenge in the 36th minute. I don't even know how to describe what he did, Zach.
He did some acrobatic shit.
He just jumped up in the air and kind of stuck both of his legs out and took out both the Dayton player and Jeremy Abinell. I don't know. I thought it was pretty dumb and it was card worthy. Yeah. Okay. So you're in agreement on that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be in agreement, but to wake up in the morning and look myself in the mirror, I kind of have to.
It was one of those things you saw in real time and you're just like, wait, what? And then they showed the replay a million times and it was, what on earth are you doing, Carlos?
Well, what's Abinell doing coming out there? But
yeah, that wasn't smart either. But if you're Leatherman, you got to see that, and you've got to be going behind Abinell, right? Yeah. Like let Abinell make the stop. You go behind him. I don't know why you're trying to break up the play in between them.
Yeah,
that's just looking for trouble, especially playing with the yellow. Play that smart, play that conservative. Trust your goalie to clear it, and if he doesn't, get back. I don't know what he's thinking there.
Yeah, it would have been nice going into halftime without conceding. Of course, being a man down after 10 minutes. That was just not going to happen. I think we kind of all knew after that first goal. It was kind of in the bag for Dayton. We're hoping that they would leak the script from Bernie's office and maybe the Billikens would get the win to ensure 2-bid league. Dayton's goal came in the 71st, second goal. Joseph Meltaquia got the ball in deep and was one-on-one with Cole Doherty. He beat with a little stutter step and a fake before hitting a low shot to the bottom left corner. And then they salted the game away, Pete, in the 74th minute. Buabanged another one home.
Yeah, his second of the game on an Andrew Armstrong cross, really sharp cross. Abinell charged at Armstrong, but the ball got by him, and Buabang slid just to kind of tuck it in the middle of the empty net. Dayton outshot SLU 19-6, 5-1 in shots on goal. Not entirely surprising, given that we played 2/3 of the game a man down. They had 13 fouls to SLU's 10, but SLU, once again, 6 yellow cards to just 2 for the Flyers. So they're always going to win that category, apparently.
Next up will be the NCAA tournament selection show. Pete, are the Billikens in?
So I was ready to say no, Zach, because SLU 35th in the RPI, and I think Stu may have said they were 37th after this game, or Timmerman, one of them. There are 3 A10 teams ahead of them. Obviously Dayton, number 21 UMass, and number 32 Fordham, and the tournament only takes 48 teams, so it's a big lift for a league that normally gets 1, maybe 2, to get 3 or 4 teams in. However, the site RPI Update, men's soccer, it goes with straight RPI. And if you look at it that way, SLU would actually be the second to last team to get in, along with the 3 ahead of them. And then George Mason would miss out by a few spots. So there, just looking at the RPI, there weren't many bid thieves this season in conference tournaments. In most cases where there were upsets for the title, it was in either a true one bid league or it was by a team that was probably also an at-large team, right? So like a team that was 16th in the RPI beating a team that's 8th in the RPI, I think was one of the cases. So Evansville in the Valley is an exception. UC Davis in the Big West, and then Furman in the Southern Conference. So you might still see Missouri State, Western Michigan, UC Santa Barbara, UNC Greensboro in the mix. That could bump other bubble teams, but that's really it. There's really no other bid thieves to worry about. It's just going to come down to how they view these teams and teams in the A10 compared to power conference teams with more middling records. Because if you look beneath SLU, you see like the UCLA, Wisconsin, a few other teams like that. None of their records are great, but you just get the bump of being like a Big Ten or an ACC school. They get a lot more respect because
maybe we can get a little bit of that legacy Billiken love.
Maybe you hope that we've had that in the preseason rankings. Wouldn't be mad if we got it in the postseason. But regardless of how many teams get in, seeing the A10 get this much stronger this year was really great to see. And I know we're going to be losing UMass, but I at least like the trend for most of the other programs in the league.
Yeah, except for Mason, they still stink.
Yeah, fool's gold there.
Volleyball had a tough weekend. I think we all saw this coming. What we didn't see coming was how the results shook out across the rest of the league, allowing the Billikens to back their way into the 6th seed in the A10 tournament. How it happened started with a 3-0 loss at Dayton, or versus Dayton, number 19 Dayton, Friday the 15th. 14-25, 17-25, 17-25. Dayton good. Billikens not so good. Not much more you can say there.
Yeah.
Saturday was a same story. Senior day honored Delaney Rice, Carly Rogers, Abby Lynn, Kay Darperly, Addie Lyon, Evelyn Fitzhale, all honored. 11-25, 17-25, 15-25. Again, Dayton good. Dayton great, Billikens not so good. Yeah. This is their 21st win in a row. They finished the A10 season a perfect 18-0. Their overall record is 28-1. However, Pete,
the good news.
Give us the good news. I'll let you be the good cop.
Good. I like that role. Despite the sweep by Dayton, SLU still clinched the 6th and final seed in the A10 tournament and will face 3-seed Loyola in Chicago on Friday the 22nd. Big day for postseason games for SLU, by the way. And games for SLU in general. I have no idea how I'm going to watch. Actually, it may end up working out well. Shit, we have a 9:30 basketball game and a game in LA. Yeah.
Son of a
and I don't think we don't know what time that one will be yet.
No, that's what I'm worried about, man.
Yeah. So the point is that SLU had 2 teams who could have taken this seed from them because we knew they were going to lose to Dayton twice, right? But what happened was George Mason beat Duquesne on Friday, which we needed because we had the head-to-head tiebreaker against Mason. And we didn't against Duquesne. So if Duquesne swept Mason, we actually would have been bumped out of the tournament. And instead, Mason won that first game. So we knew even going into Saturday's game that SLU had that last seed locked up. And there was another team that had 4 wins at the time who lost. So that didn't matter, on Friday. So everything kind of broke the right way for SLU in the other games. Which kind of bumped them into this last seed. Now, they're a distant 6th seed, the way that this season shook out. The top 5 teams are all a lot stronger. They've lost to Loyola twice already. They are more competitive with Loyola than Dayton. Dayton's just that good this year. So anything can happen. Keep the faith. Hopefully a good week of practice leading up to it. But yeah, it's going to be a tough road for them in this tournament.
Cross country Midwest regionals, Friday, November 15th in Peoria. Finished 20th out of 29 teams. Lucas Ivanowski ran 31-10 to lead the Bills and finished 94th overall. The women scored 619 points to finish 23rd out of 33 teams. 2 places improvement from last year. Sophia Pellegrin led the Bills, finishing at 91st overall. Swimming and diving, Pete.
They were off this week, but they are at the House of Champions at IUI on November 21st to 23rd. So they're back in action this week.
Shout out IUI's campus. Again.
Second week in a row.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks anyway. If you're still listening and you stopped me at the game or at Humphreys and said, something about the podcast, thank you. That was very nice. It helps. It reminds us that we're not just talking into a void. So thank you. That's going to do it for us. Go Bills.
Go Bills.